let me say something about why do I love doing movies? Why do I shoot films? Why is it this one thing that I love doing? Since my childhood, I've actually I loved stories. I would go to my grandmother's place, and during the evening when she's preparing a supper for us, she would give us, she would narrate a story, especially folklore stories. And I discovered when she would narrate a story, I would visualize when she would talk about this giant that used to swallow goats and cows and an entire village. I would visualize that. I would project that. I would put a visual image. I would put a visual image on that giant. How big can it be? Are they? How, you know? How is it able to swallow an entire village plus its cows plus the goats and everything? And I would image the terror when people are being grabbed and swallowed up and all those kind of things. The people running around, screaming, the cows trying to break from their shed. And it actually made me think, if I was to see this, because I'm enjoying the storytelling part of it, but if I was to see this, how is it supposed to be presented? And when I was growing up, I was brought up in the village, so there were there in a place where there was electricity apart from a small town. And again, talking about the visual equipment, a TV set, then black and white. It was such a privilege to even find one, let alone to be able to watch a program from it. So, so visualizing something would actually give me that privilege of watching the narration that I had. I also had my brother is very interesting. He would do a story narration even for several days. He would start a story, he would walk to my, travel to my grandmother's place, which was actually like 4 or 5 kilometers away, and he's still telling the stories. We get there, he's still telling the story. So he had a way of storytelling that would not end. He kept on bringing in characters, making them beautiful, making them enticing and engaging, that I want to hold on to them, however much is a story that he's recreating. And then I would do a visual projection of the story that he's telling me, and I watch it as he's saying it. I'm literally watching, and that made whatever I had in terms of stories very, very special to me. It made it very, very special to me. So I was like, how will I ever be able to take these stories and project them to something that I can watch, and I can see the characters, I can see their interactions, I can see their behaviors, I can see their conflicts, I can see how they overcome stuff. Yeah. And I remember one time my dad bought a black and white Supra TV 14-inch, and it was on a Sunday, and we watched an Indian fantasy film, Ramayan something. Ramayan. We have this monkey god who was actually flying, and he would multiply himself, he would do things, he would lift a mountain and carry it through a distance and do amazing things. I was like, wow, how are these people doing it? One side I knew, there's no way this was possible, but at the other side is I'm engaged. It's an amazing thing, and that actually motivated me to want to learn more, in terms of how do we take whatever we imagine into a visual projection where somebody else who cannot get into our mind can be able to see. Because that's what I actually explain by storytelling. You know, somebody has to understand what is in my mind, you know, visually. It's not necessarily they have to see, but they have to comprehend exactly what I'm understanding my story, or the story that I'm trying to bring forth, or to narrate, or to tell people about. And I started going to video show. I said the only place that there was electricity is in my hometown, so I'd go there and sneak in, because basically the video show that was there, you had to pay, and when we were growing up, money was not very easy to come forth, especially if you're a kid. You know, at times these days we kind of more trust on our children in terms of giving little cash. At that time, even being found with cash, 5 shillings was actually a war in the house. Ulipata hiyo pesa kutoka wapi? How did you get that money? You know, so I would go to the video shows and sneak in before the guy who was actually the owner of the video show would start charging, you know. I'd go there, enjoy a few moments before I'm kicked out, and try to sneak in or pick through cracks to watch the movies, the Jackie Chan movies, some Chinese Kung Fu movies, the Chuck Norris movies, the Van Damme movies, the Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies. There were the top 10, you know, the action, the Rambos, and all those kind of things. And I would watch the movie beyond just an entertainment thing happening, just building blowing up, just a guy shooting everybody, and everybody's shooting and they don't get shot, you know. And I would ask myself, these people are communicating, they're telling us their stories. We thought that time Rambo is inevitable, Bruce Lee is the best fighter in the world, and all this kind of thing, because we're watching it. That information and imaging has coded information to us, and we are informed that Bruce Lee is the best fighter in the world. Chuck Norris cannot be shot even if he's in Vietnam with against 1,000 Vietnamese all shooting at the same time, you know. And I wanted to dig deeper about that, and basing on the challenges we had at the time, because you see, we didn't have computers, you know, we didn't have mobile phones or anything, no source of information where you can say, you can Google how are films made, and then you get 1,000 or 1,000,000 tutorials on how to make movies on YouTube. At that time was the source of information. The source of information was almost zero. The closest to any video you'd see, the closest, was actually a photograph. And even in that time, the photographic cameras were actually shooting film. So no video cameras, no anything. Weddings is just photography and that's it. No videos. So this is one thing that was on the other side. Apart from what I see from a screen, from a VHS tapes, you know, the cassette tapes, how would I ever know what these people do? And that actually pushed me to take the next step, where I started sketching. You know, I would draw actors and sceneries and film. I would actually sketch them up. I started looking for magazines and newspapers that had pictures and images, especially on Daily Nation at that time, it had a segment that had the movies that are being screened on theaters, and they would put pictures of the main characters or posters of film. So I would cut that out, and I would sketch it on a piece of paper. I would draw the characters, I would draw the explosions, I would draw the aircrafts if they're there, the helicopters, the vehicles, the fight scenes, the all those kind of things, trying to piece together the sequences. I was trying to to answer the question of how are movies, how are films made. Again, we didn't have a lot of privilege traveling, because at the same time we had a TV, there were a few programs running, akina Vioja Mahakamani, akina VTBs, so they are still being filmed. But again, I didn't have the privilege of traveling, so, and not even traveling, but traveling where? Maybe to KBC at that time, and go and see how do these people use cameras to film. So rarely would I ever, or in that time I never ever saw a video camera, film camera, nothing. And then through time that vanished. Priorities dropped in. I enrolled to an engineering class doing electronics. I did for 3 years. I went to fix TVs and radios after that. I got into a training program where I was actually training computers. That was ICT. That is from 2001 to 2009. I got into training. Basically, that is what positioned me to understand computers and how they work, which was a great tool of investment in terms of information, because right now computers are part of my biggest tool in terms of filmmaking. So I do a lot of editing, working with softwares, visual effects, all those kind of things. So computers, having that background in computers, and even understanding the hardware, what equipment